welcome everybody. Glad you can join us today for our session with Jill Christensen. This is going to be a wonderful session. First, want to say thank you to our sponsors whose generous support allows our chapter to waive all the local dues for our members, and certainly ask all of our members to utilize and reach out to our sponsors whenever the time may call where you would need their services. On the upcoming events, we have several things. It's going to be a busy December. The Bellarmine CPE event will take place this year on December the 15th in a virtual environment. As always, FEI provides a discount code for our members. If you have any questions, please get in touch with Liz Payne. She can help answer all of those. It's my honor and pleasure today to introduce Jill Christensen. Jill is an international speaker as well as an author of several publications, including a weekly blog that is nationally recognized by Microsoft and Apple, as well as the author of a best-selling book on employee engagement titled, If Not You, Who? With that, Jill, welcome to FEI Louisville.
Thank you. I am so excited to be here. This is just not an issue that is going on now with COVID. It's something that we have been experiencing long before COVID. And I just think COVID has really caused this to come into more light. Because it was fascinating to me, even though employee engagement has been an issue for decades, I've rarely had organizations come to me asking for help, but now that organizations are remote and that organizations cannot see their employees beneath their noses, now everyone's concerned about, are employees working? Are they productive? Are they engaged? And so with that, the New England Patriots, Netflix, the New York Yankees, Apple, the Chicago Bulls. What do these organizations have in common? They win. And why do they win? They win because they have employees who trust senior leaders and who feel an emotional connection to the organization and who will stop at nothing to ensure the people who they serve, their customers and their fans, are delighted. In short, all of these organizations are winning because their employees are engaged. If you think about it, when you have an amazing workplace culture and your employees are engaged, their performance absolutely skyrockets and everyone around them benefits. Your customers, your clients, your leaders, your vendors, your board of directors, your shareholders, and the communities in which you live and work. And in addition, and the thing that I know you and your CEOs care about the most, we know that your bottom line success is assured because organizations in the top 10th percentile of employee engagement outperform their peers 147% in earnings per share and have a growth rate that is 90% better than their competition. However, here is the major challenge that organizations face. They mistakenly think that they can outsource culture change to human resources and achieve these amazing results. And the flaw in this logic, although HR owns employee engagement in 90% of organizations around the globe, it doesn't own the people who have the greatest impact on employee engagement. And that's your frontline managers. Your senior leadership team owns your frontline managers and can get them to do things that HR cannot. And for that reason, in order for you to drive massive levels of employee engagement, you've got to engage your CEO in your employee engagement journey, because that person can align your managers and get them to create that amazing workplace culture on all of their teams. So trust me when I tell you that you can succeed if you approach employee engagement as a team. You will not succeed if Human resources is the only player on the team. And so today you're going to leave here knowing a handful of critical things: what employee engagement is, why traditional approaches don't work, a new approach that does work, and your role in your organization's success. And so let's start by getting on the same page about what employee engagement is. And so, my friends, the most important takeaway from the video from this presentation is the definition of employee engagement. When you have employees who are engaged, we're not talking about people who are happy. We're talking about people who trust your leaders and feel an emotional connection to your organization. And because these two things are in play, your employees come to work every single day and they go above and beyond the call of duty and they give you a lot of discretionary effort. And that's why employee engagement matters. When your employees go to work each day, they have a choice. They can show up and give you 110%, give you the shirts off their back, or they can literally do what they have to do to get by and just run on a hamster wheel and just give you the bare minimum. How an employee is treated and the culture in which they are being asked to do their job each and every day has a major bearing on the choice that they make. So, a few minutes ago, I shared with you that you can succeed if you approach employee engagement as a team. You will not succeed if you outsource this to human resources and they are the only player on the team. So, the example of an engaged team that I love to use is Dorothy and her friends from The Wizard of Oz. And the reason why I use this example is because the vast majority of people around the globe have seen this classic movie. And so you understand their personalities, their plight, what they went through. And so you can relate to how engaged this team of people truly were. Think about their what they went through. They were stalked by the Wicked Witch of the West. They were ambushed by winged monkeys. They were drugged in a poppy field, and Toto the dog was kidnapped. Does that sound like a day in your workplace ever? Right? This is the type of dysfunctional work environments that we have created. But even though they went through all of those things, they never quit. Why? Because they trusted the leader giving them direction, Glenda the Good Witch, and they felt an emotional connection to their mission, which was to make it to Oz and get Dorothy back to Kansas. And so we have reams of data that show us the benefits of having engaged workers. We know that engaged workers sell more, they provide better customer service, they make fewer mistakes, they're more creative, they stay longer, they're amazing ambassadors for your brand, and they recommend your company as a great place to work to their friends and family. But even though we have all of this extraordinary data about the benefits of having engaged workers, the vast majority of companies around the world, this is not just a US issue, in every single industry, in every country, amongst every generation of worker, are failing. How bad is it? It's dismal. According to the Gallup organization, only 36% of US workers say that they are engaged. Globally, we have 15% employee engagement. The lowest levels of employee engagement, the Asia Pacific region at 9%. So we're looking at a statistic that's telling us that 2/3 of American workers are basically sleepwalking through their day. So they're showing up and they're putting in time, but there's no energy, passion, or creativity. None of that is going into their work. They don't trust leaders. They are not emotionally connected to the organization. They're not going above and beyond the call of duty, and they're giving organizations zero discretionary effort. And the saddest part about this entire picture from Gallup is that employee disengagement does not happen overnight. Every single one of your workers showed up on their first day willing to give you every single thing they had, wanting to be the highest performing employee your company has ever seen, wanting to give you the shirt off their back. But again, little by little, we create these dysfunctional workplace cultures that chip away at people's spirits over time. And they wake up every morning and they don't want to go to work, and they show up and they do the bare minimum. And that's how employee engagement starts. And so, what does it mean? How does it show up for your firm when the vast majority of your employees are disengaged and are coming to work every day, but they're really checked out? It shows up as decreased productivity, creativity, customer satisfaction, and retention. And we also see it manifest in increased absenteeism, theft, safety, and quality issues. And the granddaddy of them all, and the thing that I know you and your senior leadership teams care about the most, employee disengagement shows up as stagnant or decreased profitable revenue growth, because we know there is a direct correlation between employee engagement and bottom line results. The most profitable companies in the world and the companies that are growing the fastest have the highest levels of employee engagement. And so, where did all of this begin? The Gallup organization, which is a major research firm based in the United States, started understanding several decades ago about the correlation between an employee, how engaged employees were, and the bottom line. And so they started measuring levels of employee engagement in the American workplace. They launched the first State of the American Workplace survey approximately 2 decades ago. At that point in time, we were in the low 30%. We were around 31, 32%. So in 2 decades, even though organizations are spending billions of dollars a year to fix their dysfunctional culture, and even though 87% of C-suite executives say that employee disengagement poses a threat to my bottom line, the number is barely moving. We have moved the needle 4 points in 2 decades, which again is absolutely abysmal. And so the big question on the table is why? If everybody understands the benefit of having engaged workers, and we're putting billions of dollars toward this problem, but we're not moving the needle, that means that something is terribly wrong. And so, based on all of the research that I conducted to write my book, no progress is being made because traditional approaches cannot move the needle, yet they are still being embraced by the vast majority of companies around the globe. And what is the most popular traditional approach to fix a broken culture? Oh, we're going to outsource it to HR. They're the people. They can fix our broken culture. They can fix anything. This is what senior leadership teams think. And they are outsourcing employee engagement. They are outsourcing culture change to their human resources department in droves. And again, the problem with this solution is that although HR is tasked with fixing broken cultures, they don't own the people who have the greatest impact on the broken culture. And that's your frontline managers. And so, if we're no longer going to rely on HR to fix every broken culture in the world, and if you think about how crazy that sounds when I put it to you like that, but that's exactly what we're doing. What is a new and innovative approach that actually works? This. Your senior leadership team has got to get engaged in your company's employee engagement journey. There are no if, and, or buts about this. And I know what you might be thinking, Jill, how am I going to get a senior leader engaged in employee engagement when they think this is HR's responsibility? And the answer to that question is data. Executives love numbers. You get it. You love numbers. Why? because you don't get to be in the corner office without knowing a thing or two about the numbers. Your senior leaders, you are judged on a daily basis on your ability to meet or exceed the numbers. You are basically tasked with ensuring that your organization's numbers are directionally correct. If you're a for profit company, the truth of the matter is you exist to turn a profit for your shareholders. You have the board of directors looking at your numbers, customers, financial analysts, industry analysts, employees. Everybody's looking at your numbers, right? It's why most organizations are in business. And so leaders are keen on numbers. And so when you gather data that shows the correlation between employee engagement and increased customer satisfaction, employee engagement and increased employee productivity, employee engagement and increased employee retention, employee engagement and increased profitable revenue growth, senior leaders stand up and take notice, because there's not a little bit of data out there. There's reams and reams and reams of data out there that shows us one of the simplest ways to positively impact your bottom line is to re-engage your most valuable asset, because you've got your employees coming to work every single day and they're making a choice. They're either going through the motions and giving you scraps, or they're giving you every single thing they've got. And when you've got employees coming to work every single day and going above and beyond the call of duty and staying late and jumping through hoops for customers and really making a difference in terms of that experience for the people who you serve, it makes all the difference in the world. And we're going to talk in a few minutes about who some of those organizations are so that you can actually see what that experience looks like firsthand, because I bet these are some organizations that you have come in contact with. And so I got the data for you. You don't have to gather that compelling data. Terry, after this, I'm going to share with you a URL that has a one-pager of all of the compelling data that anybody on this webinar can use that data to share with their senior leadership team and start the conversation about the importance of employee engagement. And then once you've got your senior leadership team on board, your senior leadership team or somebody on that team is going to lead a manager town hall meeting and communicate to all of your managers specific actions that they need to do in 4 key areas that we know drive massive levels of employee engagement. And so that's the model. You get somebody from the leadership team to stand up and say, our culture isn't where it needs to be, but together we can fix this. Managers, you are the people who are in the trenches with our employees. We know the areas that drive massive levels of employee engagement. So those are the areas where we need to focus your efforts. Oh, and by the way, right now we know we're at 30% employee engagement, let's say, via the employee engagement survey. We've got a goal to be at 40% in 1 year. And effective today, all managers have a shared performance management goal to increase employee engagement 10 points in 1 year. Because at the end of the day, you've got to hold your managers accountable. You can't just wish and hope that your employee engagement score goes up. You can't just bring all of your managers together and task them with doing specific actions in these 4 areas and hope that they execute. You need to approach this strategically. And that's my other important point on this slide. It is so critical that you notice that I specifically call this model a strategy versus a program or an initiative. If you call your culture change journey a program, your employees are going to view it negatively because they will think that it's the next program du jour, here one day and gone tomorrow. In order for your employees to believe, I mean really believe, that you are serious about creating an amazing workplace culture, you have got to approach this differently. They need to see that somebody on the senior leadership team is engaged. They need to see that that senior leader has engaged frontline managers. They need to see that you've conducted a survey and have baseline data. They need to see that you've created a 1-year goal and are holding managers accountable for recreating your culture and creating a great place to work that nobody can imagine leaving, where everybody is running on all cylinders. When your employees see that, they are going to believe that you are serious about creating that great workplace culture, and they will continue to stick with you. They will continue to stick it out. They're not going to check out on you, because trust me when I tell you, everybody wants to work in a winning organization with an amazing workplace culture. Your employees don't want you to fail. They have been waiting for you as a senior leadership team to finally address this once and for all, because trust me when I say the vast majority of employees in America understand the importance of employee engagement. It tends to be members of senior leadership teams who don't see the importance of employee engagement. But again, the numbers are there in spades. And so, where did this strategy come from? When I worked in corporate America, um, the company culture was absolutely horrendous. I didn't want to go to work. And there came a day where I woke up and I thought I'm either going to quit or I'm going to do something about this. And that's when I started gathering a lot of research. I looked at the 15 organizations around the globe with the highest levels of employee engagement. And in every one of those organizations, you either had the CEO, the CFO, the CIO, the CMO championing the employee engagement journey. And in every one of these organizations, they were aligning the managers around a handful of areas where the managers were then asked to focus to increase engagement. And in many of these companies, they were focusing in 8 to 10 different areas. And I really thought that was too much. I thought if we're going to ask our managers to really step up and recreate our organization's culture, 3 to 4 areas tops. I'm a 3 to 5 girl in life. I think if you want to succeed in anything personal related, anything in business, you can't bite off 10 things. I think you've got a greater chance of succeeding if you bite off a small chunk. So we got the CEO engaged. We partnered with HR. I was in internal communications at the time. We aligned all of our managers around the 4 pillars, which I'm going to talk about next. And in 1 year, we increased employee engagement 12 points. But more importantly, our stock rose 26%. And I'm not sharing this data with you for you to think that this organization or I was so amazing. I'm sharing this data with you to give you hope. If we could re-engage 35,000 employees across 55 countries in a 100-year-old Fortune 500 telecommunications firm that was political and hierarchical and bureaucratic, you can absolutely re-engage the employees in your organization. And so if you're wondering, Jill, who are the benchmarks today? What organizations are hitting the ball out of the park? I want you to think about organizations like Southwest Airlines, Salesforce, Facebook, Nordstrom, Zappos, Costco, Google, SAP, Zoom Video, and Chick-fil-A. These are organizations that are hovering around 90% employee engagement. When you think that the average number in the United States is 36%, these organizations are absolutely blowing the doors off the barn. And they're doing that because their leadership team gets it. They understand that if we create an environment where we put our people first, our people will put our customers first, and ka-ching, 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 all the way to the bank, because that's how this formula operates. If you think about it, do I love flying on United Airlines? Yeah, I like United Airlines, but my experience flying on Southwest is bar none. They treat me like a queen. And every single time I need to get on an airplane, the first airline that I check is Southwest Airlines because as a customer, that experience is different. Do I enjoy buying shoes at DSW Shoe Warehouse? Yeah, that's a great day. But do I love shopping in the Nordstrom shoe section? 100%. I am treated like royalty. Do I enjoy eating at McDonald's? It's not healthy for me, but every now and then I do it. Yeah, it's enjoyable. Do I love going to Chick fil A? Absolutely. There's nothing like it. So I hope you can see how that experience is different. And that's what I want for you. That's what I want for you and your organizations, for your leadership team to get it, to understand that although we have always thought to put the customer first, the truth of the matter is you need to be putting your employees first because it's your employees who create that amazing customer experience or not. And I can tell you that when you are treated like royalty by an organization, you are going to keep giving them your dollars. You're going to keep going back for more. And that is how you are going to firm up and ensure the long term success of your business. And so, before we talk about the 4 areas where your managers need to focus, let's spend 1 minute thinking about what it looks like when your organization has a crappy, dysfunctional workplace culture. So, that thing in the white bubble is a flying monkey. I hope you all remember when you were a little child and you watched The Wizard of Oz, what it was like when those flying monkeys came descending out of the castle. They were screeching. They picked up Toto. They brought him into the turret at the top of the castle. It was an absolutely horrifying part of the movie. I liken a flying monkey in The Wizard of Oz to a bad manager or a bad leader. And our organizations are filled with them. So I'd love to ask, how many of you have worked for a flying monkey? I am sure the vast majority of you are shaking your heads. And you might be thinking, oh, Jill, it's not really like this. No, it absolutely is like this. This image, unfortunately, is not a stretch. When your employees don't trust your leaders, they don't trust your managers, they go to work every single day feeling like a black cloud is hanging over their head. They feel like they're under attack and they respond by disengaging. But it doesn't have to be this way. If you embrace a new and innovative approach, if you go back and start the conversation with your senior leadership team and engage them in your organization's employee engagement journey, you will be halfway to cracking the code to employee disengagement. The first half is getting your senior leaders involved. The second half of the strategy includes the 4 areas where your managers need to focus their efforts. And you might be thinking, Jill, there is no way that there could be one model for organizations around the globe in every country, in every region, amongst every generation of worker, because people are different. So, how could there be one model to re engage all employees? And the answer is simple, it's because people are not anywhere near as different as you might think. Every single one of your employees is a human being, and human beings are wired similarly. What engages and inspires me engages and inspires you. What deflates and demotivates you deflates and demotivates me. It is absolutely the truth. And so, what does engage and inspire the vast majority of people around the globe? This. So we're going to delve into each area. And so you know exactly what they mean. Getting the right person in every chair. You guys, this is who you hire and who you fire. Organizations, in my opinion, make the huge mistake of hiring for a job skills match only. You've got to start hiring for a values match. I believe that you can train any smart person to virtually do most jobs in the world. You cannot train for values. You cannot train someone to be accountable, to have a great work ethic, to be responsible, to be creative. A person is either wired that way or they're not. And so it's critical that you hire people whose individual values are aligned with your organization's values. Why? Because when you do that, those people feel an instant emotional connection to your organization because they see themselves in your organization. And again, that causes them to feel that deep emotional connection to your organization, which we know drives massive levels of employee engagement. And so, again, as it relates to hiring, you've got to start hiring people for that values fit more importantly than the job skills fit. Second in this bucket, who you fire. I want to preface this with the fact that I truly believe that everybody has the ability to learn and grow and develop. However, we've got a lot of people in this world who don't like constructive criticism. They don't believe that they have development areas. They don't see that they have a toxic negative attitude. They don't understand how their behavior is negatively impacting the people around them. When you have people in your organization who are incompetent at their job, who are leaders of people and they're horrendous leaders, or who have a toxic negative attitude, these people need to be put on a performance improvement plan immediately. And if they fail their performance improvement plan, if they choose to not learn and change and grow, or they don't have it in them to be the employee who you need them to be, those employees need to be terminated. I didn't say they needed to be moved from IT to marketing or they needed to be moved from the front desk to sales. I said they need to be removed from your culture. And do you want to know why? Because when you have employees in your organization who have a toxic attitude, who are incompetent at their job, or who are really bad leaders of people, and they have failed their development plan, every single person in your organization knows exactly who these people are. And you know what they come to work and think every single day? Why isn't senior leadership doing anything about this? And in that moment, you are chipping away at the trust that your engaged employees have in your senior leadership team. You are breeding active disengagement by allowing people to stay in your organization who fit into one of those three buckets and who fail their performance improvement plan. And so, what can your managers do when getting the right person in every chair? They need to start hiring for a values match. They need to put people on a performance improvement plan who are not earning their chair every single day. And they need to remove people from the organization who fail their PIP. Second bucket, goal alignment. When we ask American workers, why do you get out of work? Why do you get out of bed every single morning and go to work? They say, because I want to be connected to something bigger than myself. I want to add meaning. I want to add value. I want to make a difference. And so we know this is the need, a huge need of American workers and workers around the globe. And so one of the easiest ways that you can fulfill this need for connection is goal alignment. Goal alignment is when your senior leadership team creates 3 to 5 goals and then cascades those goals to the organization. And then every employee in your organization writes individual objectives based off of the senior leadership team's goals. This is not about people writing individual objectives that are based on their job description. Because when you have people doing that, they feel like they are alone on an island. But when you have every employee in your organization writing individual goals that are based off of your leadership team's goals, everybody feels like they are connected and marching forward together, arm in arm, toward the same objectives. So, toward the same vision, toward the same mission, toward the same goals. People feel connected. They feel like they're a part of something bigger than themselves. And it drives massive levels of employee engagement. And so there's a story in our country's history that points to this perfectly. So, as many of you know, in the early 1960s, our former President Kennedy had a goal that America would be the first country to set foot on the moon. And so he went to the NASA space station in Cocoa Beach, Florida, and he met with the senior leadership team to see the rocket ship being built, to learn more about the vision and the mission. And when Kennedy was there, he was walking through the hallways and he happened to come across an employee who was a janitor. And he said to the employee, "What do you do here?" And the janitor replied, "I help put men on the moon." The janitor didn't say, "I help clean toilets." The janitor said, "I help put men on the moon." And why did he respond that way? He responded that way because at that point in time, NASA's leadership team got it. They understood the importance of every single employee having goals that were aligned around the mission and the vision of NASA. And I've never met that janitor, but I bet you he's the highest performing janitor our country has ever seen. And that's the power of goal alignment. That's the power of getting everybody aligned around a common mission. And another huge win as it relates to goal alignment, if you have 100 people in your organization and they all have 5 objectives, you're going to make incremental progress in 500 different areas. If you have 100 people in your organization and every single one of them has 5 goals written that are aligned with your goals, you've got every single person in your organization every single day working to chip away at the same goals. You're going to make progress so much faster when you get every single person aligned, marching toward the same North Stars, chipping away at the same goals. And then, as you know, you can't talk about goals, goal alignment. Really, you can't talk about setting goals without talking about, well, then how are we going to rate people, right? Which is performance management. Gone are the days when you can be conducting annual performance management conversations. Your organizations need to seriously consider moving to quarterly or monthly formal conversations. You cannot let 6 months go by, a year go by before you tell somebody how they're doing. This causes people to disengage. People want to know how they're showing up. They want to know they're making a difference. They want to know they're adding value. They want to know that their job has meaning. And so managers have to engage in formal conversations much more frequently with their employees. And these conversations need to be shorter in nature, 15-minute check-ins. Again, it's a conversation. It's not the big, scary annual performance management conversation. It is let's have a talk about how you're doing to make sure that everything's going right the way we both hope that it would be going. And another thing managers need to do, in addition to that monthly or quarterly formal performance management conversation, they need to be engaging in ad hoc performance management feedback in the moment. So when you see someone doing something well in the moment, you need to pause and point it out to them. And when you see someone doing something poorly in the moment, you need to use that as a teaching moment, because we know the data tells us when you catch somebody doing something well in the moment, they do more of it. When you catch somebody doing something poorly in the moment and talk about how they could have done that better, they stop that in their tracks. And that's the type of behavior that you need in order for your organization to succeed. So in goal alignment, it is around setting goals for your organization that all of your employees write individual objectives around. It's about monthly or quarterly formal conversations, and it is about ad hoc performance management feedback in the moment. Third bucket, two-way communication culture. Currently in America, 50% of American workers are millennials or Gen Zs. By the end of 2025, 75% of the American workforce will be millennials or Gen Zs. You guys, these people were born with a smartphone coming out of their mother's womb in their hand. These people bombard others with communications and are used to being bombarded with communications. Then they go into your organization and nobody asks them what they think. They don't have a say. They don't have a voice. It's not safe to speak up. That is a recipe for massive levels of employee disengagement. It is critical that you build a two-way communication culture in your organization where your employees have a voice and your employees' voices are heard. The easiest way to do this, focus groups. It's where you bring small groups of people together and you ask for their opinion before a major decision is made. Trust me when I tell you, it's going to go over 100 times better if, let's say, for instance, you may be changing your benefits plan for next year. Rather than doing an RFP and deciding who your new benefits provider is, bring all your employees together and say, we want to know what you think. We may change our benefits provider. What do you like about our current provider? What do you not like? What benefits do we not give you that you'd love to see? What benefits do you not use that we currently offer? Gather feedback. When you announce your new benefits plan, it's going to go over 1,000 times better when you say, employees, you spoke, we listened. Thank you for participating in our focus groups. This is what we heard you say. This is what we decided in terms of a benefits provider, and here's why. Most people think, Jill, if we ask people what they think and then we don't give them what they say they want, they're going to disengage. But that's not the truth. Your employees are much more reasonable than you would think. What they're not going to understand is if you don't ask for their input. And so focus groups is a huge and easy way for you to engage in a dialogue with employees before critical decisions are made. Second, every manager needs to be conducting a staff meeting, but they shouldn't be leading the staff meeting. Every manager should rotate leadership of the weekly staff meeting to a different member on the team. Why? Because as a manager, when you say to your employee, Karen, I want you to lead next week's staff meeting. Do you know what you really just said to Karen? I trust you. And we know that when employees feel trusted, they return the trust to management. And that's how employee engagement goes up. The third thing that you can be doing in creating a two-way communication culture, I call it quarterly conversations. There's nothing more important than managers having one-on-ones with their direct reports. But most managers don't do it because they say they don't know what to talk about. So in your organization, you could declare a question of the quarter. Then each manager is asked to meet one-on-one with each of their direct reports that quarter and engage in a 15-minute conversation about the question of the quarter. A great question of the quarter that you could start off with: what do you love about your job? What do you dislike about your job? Imagine the robust conversation that an employee and a manager would then have, and how a manager would actually really get to know so much more about that worker if they engaged in that 15-minute dialogue once a quarter. And we know from employees that their employee engagement levels skyrocket when they think their manager cares about them. There's no greater way for a manager to show that they care about their employees than, again, to engage in those one-on-one dialogues. So in Build a Two-Way Communication Culture, you can start conducting focus groups. You can start doing the quarterly conversation and the one-on-one, and your managers can start conducting weekly staff meetings where they rotate the leadership of the staff meeting to a different employee. Finally, recognition. Companies spend billions of dollars a year on logo branded socks. You guys, socks. A pair of socks is not going to stop someone from quitting on you if your culture sucks. When we ask employees, how do you want to be recognized? 80% of American workers say, I want to hear the words, thank you. You guys, it's free. It's about you creating a culture of rampant recognition. Your organization could print up what I call values cards. They're 4x6 postcards where you print your values on the cards. People can write to a name, from a name, and 2 open lines where they can check off accountability, check off innovation, and then fill in what that employee did to role model the value. People will be handing these cards to one another left and right. You'll see them hanging up in offices. You will see people hanging them up in their home workspaces. If you have an intranet, you can create a wall of honor or a wall of fame in addition to a physical wall if you're still working, some of you, in physical offices. Everyone can be putting these values cards up on the wall. You should be saying to your managers, I don't want to see the wallpaper on that physical wall. I don't want to see the paint on the intranet site. I don't want to see the white in the background. I want everybody to constantly be writing up values cards, handing out values cards, appreciating, honoring, supporting one another, lifting one another up, creating that culture of rampant recognition where we are constantly looking to catch people doing great stuff and then broadcasting it out and letting everybody know what extraordinary coworkers we have. Another simple thing your managers can do, I call it a clap in or a clap out. You could set up a Zoom conference, bring every single person together on your team, and for 2 minutes, every person stands in their home office, or if you're physically in a workspace, and gives an employee a 2-minute standing ovation. No words are exchanged. Once we're back to being live, if you have a new employee on their first day, clap them out of the building. Every employee in your company should know when there's a new worker and that new worker is packing up, everybody should go to their office and literally clap them out of the building. These are simple things that you can do to recognize, appreciate, and honor coworkers. So in the recognition bucket, you can create values cards. You can create the wall of honor or wall of fame. You can start doing clap-ins or clap-outs. Because what I can tell you for sure is that if you are not deliberate about creating this amazing workplace culture, you are absolutely going to end up with a culture by chance. And it is your manager's responsibility to start doing these things consistently with their teams. Because you guys, The definition of culture is how we do things here. And so, in order for you to change your culture, your managers simply need to start doing things here differently tomorrow than they're doing here today. And we know that if they focus their efforts in these four key areas, you are going to drive massive levels of employee engagement. And so, what does this mean for you? It means that you've got to go back to your organization and start the conversation with your senior leadership team. And I know that you might be thinking, Jill, HR owns this in my company, or Jill, I'm a finance professional. I've got a lot on my plate. I understand that you might feel overwhelmed. I understand that you might not feel like this is an area that you feel like you're an expert in. But the truth of the matter is, if not you, who? If you don't make that commitment to go back and start the conversation with your senior leadership team, your organization is going to continue to get the same mediocre results year after year after year, because you know and I know that traditional approaches don't work. This is about you going back to your workplace and saying to your CEO that you have a proven strategy to increase productivity, retention, and profitable revenue growth, but you cannot succeed without them. That is how you're going to create a new reality for yourself and for your organization. And to help you start that conversation, we're going to be giving away a handful of copies of my book. And then also, if anything that I said resonates with you today, I would love for you to continue the journey with me. Because again, if you are not deliberate about creating that great workplace culture, you're going to end up with a culture by chance, and it's not going to be pretty. It's going to be mediocre at best. And we all know that your mediocre culture is not going to drive those business results that you or your senior leadership team are looking for. And so, what are your key takeaways? Put people first, believe it doesn't have to be difficult, and partner with other organizations to own it. As the title of my book reads, if not you, who? You chose to be a finance professional, which means you're a dealer in hope. And with that choice comes an enormous responsibility to ensure your organization succeeds. The quickest path to that end game is to re-engage your most valuable asset, your employees. We know that your engaged employees give you blood, sweat, and tears, and your disengaged workers give you scraps. It's the truth. And for that reason, your disengaged employees offer you the greatest untapped potential for you to improve productivity, performance, and profitability, period. And then finally, I just want to thank you for being with me today. You had the choice to attend this session. You knew that it was going to be about how you can leverage employee engagement to really drive profitable revenue growth. And because you're here, that tells me that you get it. And for that, I applaud you. Never, ever doubt your ability to partner with your leadership team and meet or exceed your employee engagement goals. You have everything inside of you that you need to succeed. You have the power. You always did. You just have to go back to your organization and unleash it.
Thank you, Jill. We did collect a number of questions throughout the session. The question is, what is the best way to communicate employees? It seems like many employees use too many modes of communication.
So I advise organizations to ask employees what is their preferred method of communication. Rather than making a decision without employees' input, we know, I grew up in internal communications. We know that the best way to get your communications read is if you use the delivery mechanism that the employee most likes. And so ask your employees, let them know that you are going to hone in on a handful of communication methods, but you need their input first in order to determine whether or not that's texting, town hall meetings, a newsletter, the intranet. So again, don't make the decision in a vacuum. Ask employees what delivery mechanism they most like, and then that's the one, the handful that you should be leveraging.
Okay. Another question, should managers ask for feedback how they as a manager can do better during a quarterly performance review?
Absolutely. Employees tell us that they feel like their manager cares more about them when their manager engages in a dialogue with them. And so it's, when we talk about performance management, it's not just the manager letting the employee know, this is how I think you're doing, right? It's also the manager saying, and I want to support you to the best of my ability. But I need feedback from you, employee, to know how I'm doing so that I too can improve. Because if you think about it, as a manager, your manager is usually rating you and telling you how you're doing. But your employees aren't telling you how you're doing managing. And we know that only 58% of American managers have been given any type of managerial training. And so there's a really good chance that there are things that you can be doing as a manager to be more effective. And there's no better person or people to tell you what those things are than the people who are on the receiving end of your management style.
Okay. And last question, what is the time frame to shift from employee disengagement to a re-engaged employee team?
You can absolutely shift your culture inside of 6 months. Again, you have to be incredibly strategic about it. Your senior leader needs to stand up and say, our culture isn't where it needs to be, but together we're going to fix this. Then your senior leader needs to align all of your managers and give them specific action items in the areas that we know drive massive levels of employee engagement. You also need to conduct an employee engagement survey. So you've got the baseline data and you know what your employee engagement score is for your company. Then you need to set a 1-year goal so that everybody knows what you're targeting to improve in that first year. I have counseled many clients, many organizations. The ones that do this methodically, meaning they approach it strategically, they are very open and honest with employees about what's going on. They're very open and honest about the fact that the culture needs to be improved. And then they set down this employee engagement journey and path. When your managers execute in the trenches, the organizations that I have guided through that process have all increased employee engagement between 5 and 33 points in 6 months. And so it is absolutely possible for you to see measurable shifts in your employee engagement. But again, it's not about human resources approaching this as a program or an initiative. It's about your senior leadership team standing up and saying, we understand the correlation between engagement and profitable revenue growth, engagement and customer satisfaction. And because of this, we are embarking on an employee engagement journey that everybody needs to participate in.
All right. We have, I guess, about 5 minutes for open discussion for anyone who would like to ask Jill any questions or talk with her specifically. I know we have shy people in this organization, but So, all right. Does anyone like to ask any questions?
Jill, I thought it was an outstanding presentation and a lot of great takeaways. It's interesting because I think you're right about, it all starts at the top. Texas Roadhouse is headquartered in Louisville, and Mark Simpson's the VP of HR, and his whole energy level and keeping it legendary is kind of their theme, and everybody does it. It's impressive all the way down to all their restaurants, and it's like Chick-fil-A. You're right. It's a different experience.
Absolutely. It's a different experience. But I tell you what, it's an experience that they understand the importance of replicating.
Oh, yeah.
I don't care where you go to Chick-fil-A, the experience is exactly the same.
Yeah.
And, that tells you that they really do get it, because the definition of culture is how we do things here, not how we do things at this location or how we do things in Indiana versus in Michigan, right? It's how we do things here in every location, on every team, in every department, in every division. And once you figure out how we do things here look like, and you replicate that across the organization, then every single person who touches your firm knows what to expect, right? Every customer, Yep. Every client, every employee, every vendor, every prospective client, they know what to expect. And it becomes something that they look forward to. And it's something that they come back to for more. And again, you talk about, we talk about, so how does employee engagement really drive profitable revenue growth? It drives profitable revenue growth because when your company can create an experience that is stellar and that is bar none, and that makes people realize when they take a step back, wow, that was different than any experience I've had, at a steakhouse or at a fast food restaurant or at a shoe store, and they like it, right? They could get their shoes from anywhere, but the experience is so extraordinary because their employees are so engaged and running on all cylinders that it just shows up in a different way. And people like that. And so they take their dollars, they take their wallet, and they keep coming back to you.
Agreed. I'm going to ask the question that's kind of the 1,000-pound elephant, a big elephant in the room, right? So I totally agree with you that exiting people that are cancer in the organization, getting somebody that has values, is really, really important. And I've experienced it. I've done it. But in this day and age of, sensitivity and lawyers and lawsuits, how can you, if somebody's doing their job from a technical perspective, but has a crappy attitude and, is cancer in your organization, how do you do that, through HR, and how do you communicate to other people, other people in the organization, hey, this person was doing their job, but they sucked at, embracing our culture.
I think the vast majority of amazing workplace cultures have a zero tolerance policy, meaning they understand that in order for us to be the best version of ourselves, we need to have the best person in every chair each and every day. And that not only means that they do their job, it means that they live our values. Okay. And so those two things have to be equally important. You have to understand that, yes, it really is okay to fire your highest performing salesperson if they have a toxic negative attitude, because they are acting like a cancer in your organization, and they are pulling so many people down. Trust me when I tell you, you can find a high-performing salesperson who's amazing to be around. That's who you want in your organization. And so it's about your leadership team agreeing that we're not going to tolerate bad behavior. Because in my opinion, a person with a rotten attitude is worse than a person who is dropping the ball with their job responsibilities. It's 10 times worse.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
People can pick up the slack for an employee who isn't doing their job. When you have somebody who comes to work every single day and who's negative and who spreads gossip and rumors and has that glass half full mentality, literally that is creeping throughout your organization, and you will never be an extraordinary place to work when you've got people in there who are negative and seething and just negative. There's no other way to put it. And so again, it's about your organization choosing that we are not going to be like the millions of companies out there that put up with this crap. And so in order to protect yourself, it's all about the documentation. I tell organizations, document, document, document. The minute you start to see this behavior materialize, you need to start, again, this person needs to be put on a performance improvement plan. You need to take copious notes and write down every single time that this person is met with, what that conversation looked like, what the manager said, what the HR person said, what the employee at risk said. Everything needs to be documented in spades. And you need to be crystal clear with the employee about the expectations that the behavior turns around. And if it doesn't, then you'll go from there in terms of what needs to happen, but that you are giving the employee every single opportunity in the world to change and to grow and to learn and to develop, that you want them to be on the team, but they can only stay on the team if they are the type of employee who is going to ensure the long-term success of your company. Because again, this really is about you covering your ass, and that documentation might not stop an employee from suing you, but it will give you more ammunition than not in a court of law.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you.
Yep.
All right. Well, Jill, we are on top of time. This has been a wonderful discussion, and your presentation was outstanding. I know for myself, I have pages of notes here, so I really appreciate all of the helpful insights that you provided. I'm sure most of our members took away a lot of notes and insights as well. So thank you for joining us today, and look forward to catching up on your blog in the next several weeks and months ahead.
All right.
Thank you, Michael. And if anybody has any questions, concerns, things you're experiencing in your organization that you didn't want to air on this call, please feel free to reach out to me. I'd be more than happy to hop on a phone call and work through anything with you.
Thank you, Jill, very much.
You're
We'll
welcome.
see you. See you.